Hit the button. We are live. There.
Awesome. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
Why relate to its sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
And this is Conlon.
Tonight we have a great show for you. A lot of uplifting, positive energy going out.
I got more stupid wrestling shirts.
We're going to talk about crystals and healing and being the best inner you can be. This is a podcast about love and mutualism and all that bullshit. So welcome to the show, everyone. Let's see your wrestling shirts. What do you got? Did I spring this too quick? I'm sorry.
I got some stuff on.
Got some stuff? Good.
I think I wore this one already. This is just, so this is one of the random ones, which is why I'll be stopped buying these t-shirts, because like it's cool, but this will get addicting. They have like a set of like, get a Bullet Club t-shirt, but if you spend, basically it's like $15 cheaper, and they'll send you a random one.
Okay.
And so this is, yeah, this is one of the Young Bucks ones.
Okay.
And this is one of the botched ones. So this is one you get it for like $6, and it's like there was something wrong with it, but you don't get to choose what it is. They just have a random assortment of ones that are fucked up, and they're selling it to you for $6.
Just a misprint.
Yeah,
Switchblade.
Switchblade.
I don't see anything wrong with it.
It is slightly off center,
Oh, okay.
and you can never tell.
I'll buy off-center cool shirts all day for $6 because most of them will end up in,
Yeah, and I don't think it's extra for like. So usually it's extra if you go past, if you get like go past XL. So once you get double XL, it's extra. But if you buy the botched shirts, I think you can get any size for the same price.
Oh, okay.
Because it's wrestling shirts, you can get up to like 5XL.
Oh, good. Well, they can fit me then. I'm a 5X man.
This is
Villain Enterprises. I just think those are just kind of cool, just in their own, without any context.
yeah.
That is kind of neat looking.
So this one is another off-center one.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's can't even tell.
This one was a random one, so this one is fine. It's another
Young
Young
Bucks.
Bucks one. Yep.
Okay. Like the crossed Kalishnikovs on them.
Yeah, that's all Bullet Club stuff. Whenever it's that, it's Bullet Club.
Well, that's good.
This one I intentionally bought, so this one was like full, like $20.
Okay.
So this is a Kenny Omega shirt.
Kind of Terminator looking.
Yeah, Terminator and sort of Kavinsky-esque.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say it had like a retro feel. All right, that's cool. I actually like that. I don't know who that is, but it's cool.
It's Kenny Omega.
Sure, we've talked about him.
He was in the match with the one Mexican guy, El Pinto Zero. He kind of looked like Scorpion if he was in black and white.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember that one. This one was just totally random. So there's this assortment where it's $9 for a random Bullet Club shirt. This one it's $8 for random across their entire catalog.
Okay.
So this was Terry Funk You wrestling T-shirt.
That's funny. These are cool shirts. I mean, yeah. Now, how many people are going to know what this is?
Listens to our podcast? No one.
Yeah, I mean, but like if you walk around in town.
Oh, somebody will know eventually.
Okay, good. Let's see what else we got here.
This is another New Japan shirt. So this is another of the $9 ones. So this is who is this? This is one of the Japanese wrestlers.
Okay.
Hiroshi Tanahashi. So it kind of looks like a Nirvana T-shirt with a wrestler.
Yeah, it almost looks ironic because it's a black and white, and then it
Yeah.
says "High Flying Star," and it's like, huh? Yeah, that's kind of satisfying.
I think. Oh yeah. I have a long sleeve shirt that it was a Mighty Scroll, the villain. He's known as a villain, so he has like Villain Club stuff.
Okay.
And it was and it's him, like with an umbrella, because that's one of his gimmicks. Is he has an umbrella that he brings to the ring. And he's staring mournfully over a grave, and there's like a big moon in the background. And so like when everybody else, so he was a part of the Being the Elite YouTube show.
Okay, I'm looking this up as you're talking, so go ahead.
And so he still had a contract with New Japan and Ring of Honor, so he couldn't leave to go with everybody to AEW.
Okay.
And so like one of his new catchphrases is he'll come out to the ring with a microphone, and he'll just kind of stand there and wait for the applause to die down, and he'll go, "All my friends are dead." and so that's what it says on the T-shirt. It says, "All my friends are dead."
Nice.
And then the one I'm wearing is another botched one, which this is just a black long sleeve T-shirt, and then it says "Villain 00" on the back.
Oh, okay.
And so that one was there's like a slight the bottom of it didn't print all the way, like a bottom of one of the zeros is kind of faded out because it didn't print fully.
Okay.
So like that was it. It just looks like kind of like a slightly worn T-shirt when you bought it new, but I only had to pay $6 for it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like weird T-shirts. It's just hard to find them in my size.
Oh yeah, you can spend extra, but
Yeah.
and that's just the wrestling one. I haven't checked out the full complement of 1 hour tees because Pro Wrestling Tees is like their sort of like offshoot that does very well for them.
Oh, okay.
Because that's the company I'm going to try to like make T-shirts for the show for, and then we can buy T-shirts for the show.
Yep, we can all wear matching T-shirts.
We'll have individual T-shirts. So yeah, that was kind of fun to.
Yeah. Oh no, I like it. There's some cool stuff. But yeah, back to the show.
We are not sponsored by Pro Wrestling Tees.
Yeah, we're not sponsored by anyone. And neither will anyone else much longer. Especially on YouTube.
What's that?
I said, especially no one else will much longer on YouTube.
Oh, was that?
Oh, you haven't heard about their new community guidelines thing?
Oh, I mean that's always changing and fucking people. But what's the new one?
Oh, I'll never play anything that I don't make up or isn't rights free anymore. Because if I even play a snippet from a movie we're talking about, we could be suspended for 90 days for using copyrighted material.
Yeah, I mean that's all. So YouTube doesn't necessarily do that automatically, but anybody who owns those rights can do that to you.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to just figure out like, okay, which company is a big fucking asshole?
Well, it's like the guys that do movie reviews and stuff where they actually play the clips behind them and talk about. I don't know what they're gonna do, because if they say anything shitty about the movie, those guys' lawyers are gonna come after them.
Yeah.
When it comes to YouTube, you can do it on a podcast, I guess, but
Yeah, because I know like with the Red Letter Media guys, they'll chop everything up with the trailer that's out. So usually trailer is free game, but.
Oh, okay.
But
well, I just heard that it has. This week I've heard on other podcasts like, they're interpreting it differently now. They've gone yet deeper.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's just like these companies that are have the right to defend their copyright material that they've purchased and not made, stolen from artists,
Mm-hmm.
and So they will create some sort of bot algorithm that'll go through YouTube and basically cast strikes on people. So it's not this. It's just something that just it's something that just automatically happens. And trying to get humans to intervene is where the big problem comes in. And if you're not a big enough show, you'll just get fucked.
Yeah. It's part of the offensive of what is it? It's called the Rotten Tomatoes effect, or what was that? Somebody was saying how, because like the movie companies are tired of getting thrashed online. They now the reason that a lot of movies are failing is because of the internet communities, and so they're specifically like they want to change. You know, they don't want. They want their people to review it, and they want to control the message around the movie. They don't want random stuff anymore. And
I was just talking about the Rotten Tomatoes stuff where they took out the audience review metric.
There's all kinds of that was one. I mean, the reason they call it Rotten Tomatoes was it's something that happened like a year or 2 years ago that these companies started doing, and now they just want to X out all whole online communities of people talking about. Because you know it becomes I guess they might have a point if it becomes like a pile-on, like the Star Wars thing, where it's just like, who can say the worst things about Star Wars? There's a lot of valid criticism of that movie, and I think there should be, but a lot of it too was like just saying they're a bunch of social justice warrior panty wastes and they're getting 1,000 people.
But they're just it's called review bombing.
Yeah,
where you just it might not even be like people, it's like other people making bots to make thousands of things to like downvote a movie. And then they do this in China too.
Oh, of course they do.
They just you hire a group of people in China or in India to do this. Same way like people can buy likes and stuff on Twitter and shit. Yeah. This is like the negative end of that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's all negative and disingenuous and misrepresentative of the internet.
Well, yeah, it's kind of it's a combination.
We have 11 subscribers for our YouTube show, and I'm pretty sure 10 of those are fake.
Yeah, I'm one of them. So. And
PewDiePie has 88 million subscribers. At least 30% of those gotta be fake.
Yeah, and I'm the guy who says the really bad stuff under another name. I'm the always like, oh, Nathan's getting bigger in the comments guy. That's always me. Just trying to stir controversy around the show.
Engagement.
Yep. I had a fuck engagement. I'm not interested. Like the show, great. If not, cool. There's like a billion other people doing this. So find what you like. But yeah, no. But anyway, I heard like, I forget who was talking about it.
Well, because recently it came up because of that Captain Marvel movie. It's like the worst reviewed movie right now, and it's not even out. It's not even out. It's pure audience reviews because Brie Larson doesn't like rapists, and so it's like she's a social justice warrior.
Oh, is that a controversial stand to take?
Well, I mean, yeah, it goes deeper than that, but it's like something where it's like, I don't know, it's one of those things.
It's fucking it's our doomed culture shit. Like on one level, I absolutely agree with her right not to like rapists and be raped, but then the follow-up comments and all the other add-on shit, it's like, oh, okay, fuck it, I'm done, I don't care, whatever. I'm not raping anyone. I can only speak for myself. Therefore, I'm not a part of this, and I don't want to be a part of this. I didn't look at the fappening photos. So you can me. Yeah, because it always like sounds like one thing, and then it's like, oh, a bridge too far. I see, we've crossed it. Now we're getting into Crazy Town.
And also, like, it's just an echo chamber, so you'd have no idea like how big this voice actually is, or if it's just a couple of computer programmers bolstering what there is.
Yeah, that's. I never know, but I know that.
I don't know. There's a thing I think about. There was a quote recently from I can't remember what it was about. It was some investor, and he works for some investment group like Cobalt or some shit like that.
Okay.
And I can't. And the quote from him is, and it was like taken from like a call or something like that, like an earnings call.
Okay.
And like I'm not sure if it was supposed to get out, but like it was something where the I think they gave a pay raise to like all their labor, and the guy was like, "It's like this is bullshit. Labor getting paid again, and shareholders have to pick up the scraps."
Oh, okay.
I was like,
Yeah, that's a career-ending thing to get out. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's, and it's like, okay, so that's why the world sucks, is because all those people out, all the investors out there think exactly like this guy, and he just like said it out loud. He just said accidentally said the truth out loud.
Yeah, this is not lying.
But it's like,
Your honesty, sir.
but I don't know, it's like super hubris. It's like, it's so perfect. Like, this is like, this is like a quote that'll change the world. Like, everybody will rally against it. But you think like, oh wait, it's so perfect. It's probably a lie and propaganda.
This is what Bernie Sanders is going to put on his campaign slogan. Like this, it's like they did it. They actually said it out loud. What we knew they always think. Oh, they didn't, because they're not that stupid. I mean, we know they actually think that way by their actions.
Yeah.
They don't have to say it out loud. We know it, but yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, those guys are gonna hang themselves, though. It's all those guys that. It's just like all this shit with the Cohen hearings this week. I don't want to go a million miles deep into it, but a U.S. representative, now mind you, a lunatic, and I don't remember his name because I didn't really, I don't try to do a lot of this, but it did strike me. Posts on Twitter to Michael Cohen before he does the public testimony. We know things about you. Your wife's going to find out about the shit you've been doing. This was a Trump ally of some kind, and it was a federal representative. And he's tweeting out these like Soprano threats, like where everyone can. This isn't a private message to Michael Cohen. Everyone can see this shit, and of course, some people are justly horrified about what he's saying, and some people think it's cool as shit. It's like, this is not how your government should fucking work. It's like, yeah, everyone feels that way. That stuff gets said all around on all sides, but to air it publicly. And then to have people be like, yeah, tell them. It's like, oh my God, you're fucking crazy. And this guy's done shit like this before. This wasn't like some random. It's like, oh, he seems so measured until the no, this guy's been a shithead forever. But and if you watch highlights from the Cohen hearing, it's like the Democrats. I mean, they're trying to make political hay out of it, of course, but they're kind of just asking questions. The Republicans are just saying just bizarre, like, counter-worldly stuff's like, what do you really want to get out of this? And he's basically like, I don't want to go to prison. I have a small children at home. I basically made a deal to testify, put in prison the rest of my life for lying to an investigator. And then it's like weird tortured stuff. Like, so do you feel that you had to come here and testify? Do you think the investigation is legitimate? It's like, well, what's he supposed to say? No, it's terrible. I got caught. Fuck this investigation. But it's just the tortured thinking. Anything to justify. I mean, I know everyone wants their team to win, but holy fuck, guys. It's so crass. It's like, you guys are supposed to be like the dark force that's directing all our life, and you're just coming across like idiots. Which shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but yeah, you still expect more subtlety. I want more Bond villain out of you. A little less.
Lie to me.
Yeah, a little less shit.
I know I asked you to tell the truth and be more, what do you call that?
Transparent?
Yes.
But really, I just want you to be sinister.
Yeah.
I want you to steeple your fingers. And I want you to ask questions with vague insults weaved into them. But don't just come out there like some fucking hillbilly, the king of the trailer park. It's like, I think this is a travesty of justice. Yeah, we're only wondering if our president is colluding with our number one enemy. It's like, this is a travesty. It's like, is it?
This is a miscarriage of justice. Speaking of miscarriages.
Yeah. We need to stop aborting fetuses to harvest their organs.
Build the wall.
Build that fucking wall. Build them out of Mexican bone. And then we should decide who else goes on the other side of that wall, because we need to clean up this country too.
Drink from the blood of your enemies.
The mic is on. Billy Bob, the mic is on. Oh, shit. I'd like to apologize.
Well, I wouldn't like to, but I'm being forced.
I do not have a racist bone in my body. I have lots of colored and Jewish friends, and they dinner near the vicinity of my home.
I go to church every Sunday.
Every Sunday. I don't hit my wife that often anymore.
And then he's like whispering off to the side. I don't hit my wife.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of organ harvesting, did you hear that clusterfuck that was the Alex Jones returns to Joe Rogan?
No.
It was a 5-hour fun fest.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. Because, you know, they had a spat, supposedly. They were talking well, Joe Rogan never really talks shit about people, but yeah, Alex Jones was like, he works for the CIA. I know people. I've talked to people. I have the documents. And so they had some kind of spat a couple weeks ago, and then Alex Jones comes on, and he's just roaring drunk and just ranting and raving about all kinds of things. Because he's talking about Sandy Hook, and, you know, because he's being sued for that now by the families, because you know, the families are kind of upset that people are knocking on their door and telling them your child wasn't murdered, you're a liar. You know, you get tired of that after you bury fucking kids. And yeah, so he's being sued for that. And of course, George Soros is behind it all. You know, according to Alex Jones. But yeah, they were playing. It was a wild trip. I mean, it shows exactly what's wrong. One of the problems with Alex Jones, because like a 5-hour podcast, that sounds pretty incredible for that to be done just in one sitting. And especially if I mean, Joe Rogan does it like 4 or 5 days a week, but really 5 hours for one sitting, especially with one guy driving and all. Yeah, it gets nuts. We got to remember, Alex Jones is doing that 5, 6, 7 hours every day. And it's like, oh my God, how do you keep that? You know, no wonder you get off the fucking rails. What do you talk about? Yeah, after about 2 hours, I'm getting ready to pull the ripcord because, like, you know, my throat hurts. But these guys, yeah, this 5-hour shit, and it was wild. It was a fun, wild time with Alex Jones and Joe Rogan. Nothing was accomplished except now they say they're not mad at each other anymore, which that's good. Yes, I don't know. But yeah, you're seeing a guy that's like, yeah, this guy's definitely moving towards the end of his career. But there weren't any spectacular meltdowns except for him wanting Eddie Bravo to choke him out. And then like almost acting like he was going to start a fight on the show, just yelling really loud. And I mean, incredibly emotional show. But yeah, after I had to listen to that in 3 different settings, it's like I can't absorb 5 hours of this goob all at once. I gotta space myself out.
And then they had this
British guy on there, who's a British. He's from Britain, but he works in Mexico as a narco journalist. That was like heartrending and horrifying. It's like, just when you thought you knew how bad it was down there, just wait. But it's really weird, though. It was, I mean, it was a great week of Joe Rogan experience. If you like that kind of stuff, check it out, because I was thoroughly entertained all the way to work and all the way home. But I can't top it. I'm just gonna say check it out because it's interesting. Let's talk about guns.
Okay.
On YouTube, I mean.
I think forever I had on here, it's like another gun channel on YouTube. Let's talk about that one first. So it's called Garand Thumb.
Garand Thumb?
Yes.
Okay.
And he appears to be an active duty military. I think some people said he's like a SEER trainer. That's like, I can't remember what the S stands for, but it's like escape, evade, whatever. It's so if you ever caught behind enemy lines, that kind of stuff.
Survive, escape.
That's it.
Burn.
And I think he's Air Force.
Okay.
But well, no, I saw YouTube comments and they said Air Force, but recently he reviewed the I believe it's the M17. That's the Sig Sauer that the Army is adopting.
Okay.
So I think he's Army if he's adopting the Sig Sauer.
Okay.
But yeah, he does gun reviews on his channel, and they're very it's very like high quality footage of him like firing the gun.
Okay.
And then he just talks about the gun, and it's pretty well done. He wears the same exact shirt.
The name of that now, is that something about inserting the clip into the M1 Garand, like it would snap, it would smack your thumb?
Yeah, because once you put it in the thing, and I'm not sure, like I've never operated a Garand, but it like the bolt goes forward. It goes forward pretty fast.
Yeah,
but,
you gotta hold the bolt back when you reload it, otherwise
yeah.
it'll forward on you. Yeah.
So I think that's just something like that. So
I've shot one once. It was kind of cool and antique-y. Like people's lives depended on this. Holy fuck! Guys must have been much stronger in World War II.
And the BAR.
Never shot one of those, but I want to. It's a weird concept. Just take a heavy game hunting round, pack that into a 20-round magazine, fully automatic, but then make it weigh 20 pounds also. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I enjoy the Grand Thumb stuff. He does a pretty good job. He has when he does like there's like I think his dad, because he always at the end of every video he always talks about places where you can like learn to like operate your firearm and get training. And I think his dad owns some like big training thing, so that's why he has like access to a lot of this shit.
So that's how he's making money doing this YouTube channel. Not by getting, because you can't make money on any gun
yeah.
Anymore.
Oh yeah, he has tons of sponsors. He's sponsored by Mag Warehouse.
Oh, never heard of him.
And LAX Ammo.
That's like just before you get on the plane.
Yeah.
Stop at LAX Ammo before you go to LAX and take off. Don't forget your hollow points for that flight.
Exactly. I thought, I was like, is this supposed to be an ironic name, or what the fuck is that?
Grab you some spare magazines
for the flight.
or you belt up. Please put all AK-47s in there.
Just imagine a guy trying to shove his AK in the upper cargo thing.
Can you help, ma'am? Can you help me? You got to take the magazine off the side. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. American planes. It's a dude with like a belt of grenades on and a business suit. Like, I'm just
We did a Navy flight once. That was like interesting. So we were carrying our M16s on the flight, and that happens. You can even get on a commercial flight, like, and you have your M16 with you. It's pretty weird.
Loaded, right?
Yeah, it can't be loaded. We had to have a blank firing adapter on the end just to like, hey, everything's cool.
That would be weird to get on a plane of all the things you would expect to see. Like if you're just some random dude, you get on a plane. And of course, I'm sure you guys were flying coach. They probably didn't have.
Oh no, the one we flew was a Navy plane, but I've seen pictures of guys who like they were on commercial aircraft holding their M16s.
Yeah, that would be a weird, jarring thing if you get on the plane and you pull that curtain over and you're walking back and there's a bunch of dudes in army fatigues with guns. It's like, oh, they've upgraded the air marshal service. I see.
Actually, it didn't work because usually when you fly commercial, you fly in civilian clothes. So it's like
weirder. Okay. Hey, guys.
Well, at least that's Marines. We usually, when we fly commercial, we fly in civilian clothes. Everybody else like wears their full-on gear.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's for like, even though you can tell who a Marine is, even when they're civilian gear, you're supposed to kind of like not give away tactical information. Like, hey, what flight are you going? What are you doing? Whereas, like, I guess all the other services are like, fuck it.
Different standards. Huh?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, and that Navy flight was the worst flight I have ever been on.
Was it jet powered or prop?
It was a jet. We thought we were gonna fly in a C-130, and then just like a fucking like 737 Boeing pulled up.
Painted green.
No, it was just it looked like a commercial jet. You couldn't tell it was a
Oh.
Navy plane.
Oh, okay, okay.
And like they must have been training or something. But like the cabin pressure was like really weird because like I think I got like my ears popped and like I couldn't hear for like a week in my like left ear.
That's weird.
Well, I also was sick, so that probably didn't help. And like I usually like I could just like go the fuck to sleep on a flight.
Right.
No matter like how rocky it is, typically. Like I fall asleep on takeoff and landing.
Yeah.
Because that's the most time, like, if a flight's going to go wrong, it's takeoff and landing.
So I better be asleep.
Yeah, well, because it won't matter. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah, I was not gonna go take. I got it.
So when people, like, are so scared of, like, well, what if I could die? It's like, fuck it. Go to sleep. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Either this shit works or it doesn't. Oh, fun thing about flight. You know, this, like, I think I learned about statistics. You know how they say like air travel is the safest travel in the world? Well, they base that on like miles traveled.
Oh, so it's not based on like mechanical reliability.
Well, see, if you base it on departure, it's like the worst.
Oh, yeah, there's always that thing, that hook.
But you know, like with a car, it's like you're departing constantly, so that kind of like skews the results. But it depends how you look at it.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah, jumping into a piece of metal and going 100 or 1,000 times faster than you could ever run, depending on whether it's a car, a plane, or whatever, it's not going to be like intrinsically safe. But yeah, go ahead.
But you know, planes are pretty safe.
Yeah, I don't worry about it.
But yeah, the takeoff was weird. The like turbulence, the landing was super fucking rough. Like it was the worst plane ride I'd ever been on. I wasn't like scared of dying. It's like, well, that sucked.
It's annoying.
trying to sleep with my head bobbing on a rifle.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
So yeah, Grantham. He wears the same. He has like 6 of the same flannel shirts, and he like talks in like this black void background when he goes to the kind of like review section. So he always does it in the same shirt. And but like I said, like when he goes out and operates whatever weapon it is, like it's always like high quality footage, and like he's always doing cool weird shit with it.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good channel.
Check that out.
It's more just like gun reviews, which I'm not really. It's like, I don't know. It's still cool. It's like I'm never gonna buy any of this shit, but it's still like, oh, yeah. I can this. I enjoy the sales pitch.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm never gonna fucking use this thing.
Yeah. It's fun.
And then one of the and then another it was a project by the Forgotten Weapons guy, Ian.
Oh,
he's
Thunderbolt?
working. Yeah, Project Lightning.
Or Lightning, okay, yeah.
So they're because it's working on another YouTube channel called C and Arsenal.
Okay.
Which I learned about recently, a CNR weapon with curio and relics.
Okay.
That's what.
Sense. Know that, but yeah.
And it's basically like really old shit. Like I guess like if it's 50 years old unmodified, you don't need. Well, I'm not sure because there's been new stuff put out there, but you don't need an FFL license to buy that stuff. You can get it sent directly to your home. So if you want that Mosin Nagant, it can get sent right to your home.
Yeah, that's probably true because there's so many millions of things sitting around.
Well, there's also because like recently, if you have like an original like Vietnam era M16, like that's technically considered a curio weapon now because it's like over 50 years old or something like that.
Okay.
So if it's not modified, it's like technically a curio weapon.
Yeah. Now it can't be fully automatic though, can it?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I thought those were all like Title IV weapons or something. Yeah. or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't everyone jump on me. I don't know all this shit anymore.
So what the project they're doing is they're taking light machine guns from World War One, and they're just kind of sending them through a bunch of tests and kind of seeing like what's the best one.
Yeah.
So that they have the BAR there, and you get to, but it's like specifically the World War One BAR, so it's slightly different from the one they use in World War Two.
A lot more wood furniture, a little thicker metal.
Some operations are different.
Open bolt.
Yeah, fires from the open bolt.
Yeah.
But I think like I'm not sure if they changed it, but the mag release is on the inside of the trigger guard. It's forward of your finger.
Okay.
So there's a way to like kind of push your finger forward and hit it, but nobody does that. You just like take your hand off and use your thumb to press against it. I did not real, huh?
They have a 50 caliber version of the BAR. too.
Jesus Christ. I did not realize how fast the BAR fired because its fire rate is almost faster than any of the light machine guns of that era.
Yes, it's very fast.
And they also like built it. There was like it's almost like a canteen cup you put on your belt, and that was where you put the butt of the gun. Is like you just was like fire from the hip, and that was like supposed to control the climb because the thing climbs so much.
Yeah, that was just a suppression weapon.
Yeah,
It was an indirect fire weapon. It was wildly effective, but you had to be a big boy to use one.
yeah. Well, I thought considering how they set up the events, like, oh, the BAR is just gonna run away with everything because it was like the most technically advanced for its time. But like, no, it's kind of middle of the road for everything. But its operation is the most rifle-like of any of the things, and a lot of where it loses a lot of things is it's the only weapon they're using that doesn't have a bipod on it.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're doing a lot of firing from prone, so that kind of affects a lot of things.
It's a lot of metal to hold out in front of you.
Yeah.
Start resting the magazine pretty quick. They have a 50 caliber version of that, and they have a short barrel version of that. It was issued to like VIP bodyguards in the Second World War.
Huh.
They had the short barreled 50 caliber version. I don't know what that did, but you just found big, strong men. And because if you hit someone with it, you're gonna blow them to fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know who was using it. They weren't common. I've just seen pictures. And when I say short barrel, I don't mean it's like just necked off this long, but it has a shorter barrel.
Yeah.
I think it was for use inside a vehicle or from a vehicle or something.
Okay.
There was some kind of thinking there.
I'd like kind of like put it on a swivel on like a tank or something like that. And
No, it was almost always used as a VIP escort weapon.
Okay.
Like it was just a big scary gun. Like don't fuck with these guys. If you just got to look at these guys and these guns, you're like, whatever we were gonna do, we're not gonna do it because it was. Yeah, it was. I think that's what the intentions were behind it. I think there's like 4 examples in museums.
Yeah, so yeah, they have a bunch of different ones. They have this French one called the Shoshaw. They have 2 versions. They have one has a half moon clip, and then there's like a 30-06 American version that has just a straight clip on it.
Oh, okay.
And it has a weird operation.
Was that the one that had the woodpecker thing that flipped around when it fired?
It might.
Like the charging handle would actually go like this as it fired?
Well, there's a bunch of them that actually do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Probably not that specific. I've seen it before.
I think well, it has a really weird recoil impulse. I'm probably using that incorrectly.
Yeah.
Because I think it has a what do they call it? So what they call it, like so like an AK-47, they call it like a short piston driven system.
Okay.
And so I think this is like a long piston. So it's like the whole thing, like the whole bolt, like goes back.
Big chunk of metal reciprocating, and you're firing a gun at the same time.
Yeah.
So a bizarre felt recoil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's almost like 2 recoil impulses after one trigger pull.
That would be effective for control. Fighting this thing like it's a jackhammer.
But that's why it's meant to be like manned. It's they're all doing this like one person at a time, but this shit's all supposed to be like you have like a 3-guy team running one gun.
Right.
But it's still it's a pretty fun series. It's coming out like each week. There's kind of a new one. So.
Yep. I have fired a Maxim, which is kind of cool. The World War I water-cooled, belt-fed machine gun. Has a water jacket, and you just hose up to the bottom, and the thermal action of it heating up sucks water through, and it has an 80-pound brass base with wheels that you turn. It's truly a crew-served weapon. It takes 2 people to shoot. One has to keep the belt going into it, and but yeah, it's nasty. I mean, it's like it's not super fast, but yeah, it's a good way to kill a lot of people. I mean, but it's just the giant weight of it is so imponderable. Because when you got like 3 beefy guys setting this thing on a tripod, you basically brought over on a modified pallet cart. It's like, oh, this thing weighs like 200 pounds all put together. As virtually not a lot of, other than the machines running, like it's not recoiling really hard on you, but it's full of fucking water and made of brass, and you can swap out the barrels on them. And
yeah, they did one. I think it was that one where they have to walk with it and fire. And that one was...
Oh yeah, without it being on the tripod.
Yep.
Oh, good luck.
Because that was the section where it was called walking fire, where the idea is where you don't really aim, you just fire from the hip to try to suppress the enemy as you're trying to take a trench.
Yeah.
Which essentially what the BAR was designed to do.
Right.
But it didn't fare very well in the test.
Well, what worked best was the shotgun.
Yeah.
But you've heard the story about the Germans, like in World War I and II. They said we'll take prisoners, but not if we catch someone with a Remington. Because the problem with the shotgun is it just mauled people. It didn't really kill them.
Yeah.
Especially if it had a lot of heavy wool uniforms on. I mean, it would hurt and it would mutilate you, but wouldn't necessarily kill you. But if you want to get a bunch of guys out of a trench, just fire a bunch of steel pellets at them, and they'll get out of there. But yeah, the shotgun's one of those weapons that ambiguously moves in and out of war. Needed. Same thing with the flamethrower. It's like, well, that's a horrible weapon. We don't need that. We're really having a problem with these guys in pillboxes. Bring in the flamethrower. The thing with flamethrowers is they work, but they're horrifying weapons.
And then it was an older part. So there's another Ian channel. He does the in-range TV stuff.
Oh, okay.
With another guy. I can't remember the other guy's name. They do a lot of competition shooting. They also do like reviews and stuff like that. But they had this one they did last year it was a project called the What Would Stoner Do project. And basically they were going to put together...
Guess what Eugene Stoner would build?
Yeah, for an AR-15, like using modern materials, their interpretation of what Stoner would intend the M16 to be had he had current modern day materials. So they went out to basically build the lightest AR-15 they could.
Okay.
So they had because I guess in later versions of the M16, the first version had they called a pencil barrel. It was like a really thin barrel.
Okay. But
after operation, it kind of like got off center pretty good, like 3 inches a minute of angle or something like that.
Must have been some thin metal then, yeah.
And then they beefed it up later on, but they added weight to the rifle, but it kept it from getting off a center.
Yeah. After
sustained fire. So this one there, it was a modern pencil barrel, so it was like way lighter. And then they did a mag dump and tested it. Like it moved like maybe like 1 minute of angle or something like that. So it was fairly decent. And then they had like a carbon fiber jacket for the handguard. So that was like super light because it was just carbon fiber. I basically just built it like, I think the thing ended up weighing about like almost 6 pounds, like just under 6 pounds.
Oh, okay.
And that's with like a bunch of attachments.
On
it too.
What do they call that? Sexy tactical or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you got to have a light and you know.
Well, they decided not to put iron sights on it. They said like, we're gonna trust in optical sights. Like we think if Eugene Stoner was making this now, he would just trust in the optical sight work. Because there's some sight that they got, I think it was called like Solar Lens or something like that, and it's a infrared, or it's what do you call that? Where it's just the red dot scope.
Yeah, it's a red reticle. Yeah.
With a solar panel on top, so it can keep the battery charged.
Oh, okay. It sounds what a couple batteries weigh, but okay. Sounds like something that would break.
I mean, you can change the battery too, but it was. I mean, it's a really small one. It's a very small sight, but yeah, and I think it's only like 1. I think it's only like 2 or 1.5 times magnification. But
Oh, okay. So it's your basic battle sight.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, they have like 18 different sections that explain everything they chose, like the trigger, they got their
Make the springs and the recoils out of magnesium.
what did they
That.
they used a different buffer system, and it didn't have that big spring in it.
Oh, they just a piston system.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's the new thing. Yeah.
And they had an ambidextrous safety on it, and mag release.
Yeah.
And then their lower they chose was what is it? It was just it wasn't carbon fiber, but it was plastic. It wasn't aluminum, but it was pretty sturdy. Because there's like a point where the buttstock meets the pistol grip, and usually when they make plastic versions of that, it's a direct copy of the aluminum version. So like that in between area is usually like the weakest, and it'll break on you. But like they redesigned it and beefed up that part because they're making it out of lighter material, so it's very strong. And the material they use, it's kind of bendable, so it'll in certain situations it'll be better than an aluminum lower, because it won't just break. It'll kind of like bend before it breaks, and it'll just pop back into place.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a really interesting series. They seem to love the thing they made, and they even have a list of like, here's all the stuff where you can buy it.
Build your own.
It's like $3,000.
Silly. Yeah. I can imagine.
But it was like one of those things where it's like nobody's making this, because like everyone who makes an AR-15 like has their own proprietary thing, so they're not using other people's shit. Where with this one, it's like we just got all the cool shit from all the different people and put it together.
Yeah, I don't know if there's not like a big civilian market for like, do you want the lightest AR-15? I'm sure if manufacturers put their full weight behind it, they could probably make a super like skeleton, something similar to what these guys did. But there's not a lot of demand for it. And it's like, yeah, it's heavy. It's a rifle. I'm not running through the woods with this thing, 5 hours a day. So what do I do?
Well, that's what they really liked, because they were comparing it to a bullpup, and how like in a bullpup the weight's all at the back, so it's kind of balances nice. But they said like this thing's so light it balances like it's a bullpup, but it's a full length rifle.
Oh, okay. That sounds kind of cool. I like that clever thinking. Some of these guys have a lot of time and money too.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Well, a lot of the stuff is the Demolition Ranch guy. I believe he buys everything on the show.
Yeah.
But for a lot of for like Forgotten Weapons, he's just like going places, and like people are letting him look at stuff.
Right.
And then for In Range, a lot of the stuff there is like donate or loaned for the show.
Like Hickok 45.
Yeah.
You got this and that. Like when he was shooting the double 45. Where do you even get that? And then I went and looked it up, and it's like, oh, it's like a $5,000 custom made.
Yeah.
Like that's not his. Somebody loaned it to him. It's like, oh, okay, that's a cool, weird idea, but
So yeah, YouTube gun shows.
Check it out, YouTube. Time for model talk. Gotten a little further on my bulldozer. That's the main body and the bulletproof cab. I don't know how much of that you can see.
Yeah. I like the gear work on the treads, or where the treads will eventually go.
Yeah, here's where are those guys are right here.
Are those solid, or are they actually kind of stretchy?
They're a little stretchy.
Okay.
They're made. There's 3 pieces you assemble, and then you put each one together.
Huh.
Do it 150,000 times, and then you have extra tread left. But yeah, these color schemes are like, I'm doing this is the Outland Expanded Universe bulldozer, so it doesn't have like the machine gun. Like there's a little gun that goes on top of it. It's like a remote wired some kind of gun, and I'm gonna put a light there. And so yeah, and this is gonna be a nuclear powered bulldozer, so I'm not gonna have like smokestacks on it and shit. Can't run a diesel engine where there's no atmosphere. So yeah, that's coming along, and then I got the beast budget. Like, oh, there's a glue spot there. Fuck it, it'll cover it. Paint will just make it disappear. With that kind of paint, it's like 50-50 thinner paint ratios and stuff. Like you really gotta. The thing is, it's completely dry and ready to go in 5 minutes. That's the biggest part of that. Because my stuff, you gotta let it cure like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Or I could get what's it called? A Dr. Dryer rack, where looks like a little mini refrigerator with like shelves in it, and you can set it up for what kind of paint you want, and it'll be dry and cured and hardened and ready to go in 12 minutes.
Does it do anything, or is it just like a special container?
It's just if you plug it in, it's a super dry environment.
Yeah.
And it uses like convection. It doesn't really heat it because it's a plastic model. It just melts it.
Yeah.
But it basically creates a super dry environment of slightly elevated, like temperatures of like 100 degrees, maybe 115, and it just sucks all the moisture out of the paint.
Huh.
It's dry and hard and ready to go, but it's $395. Yeah, I'd love to have it, but
I got time.
yeah, I could just wait. Well, that's like one of the guys was talking. We were talking because we're having our big swap meet this week, and which is like I don't have anything to swap because I said I only have one model at a time typically. Like I don't have 300 in the rack ready to build. I just get 1 or 2, and because the one guy said it's like, yeah, I'll paint one and then work on a completely different one for like 48 hours, and then put that one away and go back to the other one once the paint dries. See, that's what Dr. Dryer prevents, is you don't have to wait. But if you don't have $400 just to fucking throw around on some weirdly specialized product like that, you learn, to be patient. And so that stuff, like, what website is that? Micro Tools, or there's a whole rabbit hole of specialty model and train building websites you can go to. Like I can buy a lathe for like $1,000 that is a small scale plastic lathe. I could make any length part or whatever I wanted. The 3D printing's getting better, but there's like a whole website of like miniature tools you can buy that are just like the big tools. Like there's a belt sander that has belts like this wide, and you can just use that to make. And it costs like 4 times as much as a belt sander you go to Lowe's and buy.
I was gonna Dremel.
Oh, Dremels will melt things. The stuff with the stuff for model making that's like miniature tools, they all have a bunch of speed controls on them at the regular.
Oh, okay.
So you can like run it down to 200 RPMs and just like really, you can almost use it to polish.
So you're running it slow, or are you running it high for plastic?
Very slow.
Very slow. Okay.
Plastic just melts if you put any kind of. You can melt plastic sanding it by hand.
Yeah.
It'll just roll over. But yeah, that's what makes these things cost so much, is they have all these speed controls, multi-step motors, and yeah, you can go full Adam Savage and like, this is my 2-inch belt sander. Like, nobody has one of those except people that make production models for studio movies and stuff.
I built this with my mini lathe. It just makes smaller equipment with my lathe.
Yep, you have a mini lathe with a chuck that I think only goes up to like 2 inches. or maybe an inch and a half, but it has like 14,000 feed speed combinations you can change it around to instead of 700 or something.
I almost purchased a Grizzly mini lathe. I think it was only like 5 feet long,
Yeah.
which is still pretty long, but you could only do aluminum, and like you could do wood if you wanted to, but it was only specific aluminum. But you couldn't do steel with it because it wasn't.
You gotta
Even
have
though,
like 220 volt motors and stuff to do that.
yeah, because like the thing was with when you work with a lathe, the harder it is, the slower you work.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it needs, I don't know, like torque or something like that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of. It's a lot more it's a lot more amperage. You got to have big motors and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's got to be like, that's the reason they weigh 4 tons, is they got to be rock solid steady.
Yeah.
You'll be wobbling around and shit because they'll get killed. Here we go. Micro Tools. Oh yeah, end mill. 3-inch end mill. $498.
Jesus Christ.
Well, these are people that like trust fund kids that like, I
Yeah.
want a model train base in my basement. And it's like, this is that stuff you see where they after he died, they went into his house, city, and
It's magic. He must have been so lonely.
he was alone. He spent $500,000 building this thing. Passion project. They have this stuff like that at the Henry Ford Greenfield Village Museum. They have like these guys will come in like once a couple times a year. World's largest train diorama. Shit like an in scale, like the stuff that's like this big, or I think that's what it's called, in scale. It's that really small Japanese scale. They will literally build a world that will take up a football stadium play area, and it's just all these little trains driving around and people doing stuff. But it's, I mean, the people are like this big. It's just like that would be a person, you know, like that little tiny, and it's all painted like with the same detail I'll do on a big model.
Huh.
Somehow they do it on a little model. I think they use microscopes to paint that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, they reform it at an atomic level.
Yeah. We've seen the guy that carves like whole trains in, you know, the graphite that's in your pencils.
Yeah.
That middle. The guy that carves like, it looked like a whole steam locomotive coming out of a tunnel.
Yeah, yeah.
A microscope though.
Jesus
but it's
Christ.
like, yeah, he's using his hands. Ultimately, he's using his hands, but he's looking through a giant microscope. And it's like, that is insane. That's way beyond any skill I could ever imagine. I don't even know how you do something like that. But yeah, so that's that kind of stuff. It's the dog barking.
The guy who builds like a fucking battleship out of matchsticks.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that. One of the guys in our club bought a was it the USS Yorktown 1/200 scale, which means it's like, you know, twice, longer than my desk. It's like this massive.
If you had 200 of them, it'd be the size of the ship.
Yeah. It's like, I like a 120 scale, you know, Missouri class battleship. Yard. That guy builds big models, though. He's one of the guys that built like the $400 B-17 model and stuff. Like, it looked amazing. It's like, holy shit, that is awesome. But he was the one where the guy at the competition he was in is like, you can see the seams on the wings. Like, now you have to take it apart to move it. It doesn't just move in one giant. It doesn't matter. I can see the seams. I'm counting that. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
I like when you see movie props, and like you're not like you see like a Millennium Falcon. It's like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, it looks big in the scale of the show, but then it's like, what's this like? And then you see like the blue screen footage, and like, Jesus Christ, that thing's like 10 feet long.
Yeah, massive.
You know, just to get that kind of detail, you need to build it that big.
Yep, they build them huge. That's like the Millennium Falcon I bought is based on that model.
Yeah.
They showed the guys from Bandai standing around it, taking pictures with like these cameras that just zoomed in, and it's like, oh, he looks like he could just sit on top of that and ride it away. That thing is huge. You ever seen the Nostromo when they saved the Nostromo from
No.
Alien? Yeah, when Fox was done with it, they just pushed it out in a lot and it just got rained on for like 20 years or something. And these guys found it and it was just completely decapitated. I mean, it was wasted. And they're like, we can save this. These were like prop builders and they did it in their spare time. It was like 3 cars put together. This thing was and they fixed it and brought it back to like its studio model size. And then because that's a ship that a lot of people want to do a model of, but nobody either has the rights or makes the model, or because somebody used to make one, but they made it out of that vinyl that you made records out of.
Yeah.
The vinyl models that just didn't last very long, and they don't exist anymore. You can only find them on the secondary market for like $300. So. But yeah, there's guys on the internet that have, the super genius modeler guys that I watch on YouTube that like, I'm just going to fabricate it. And I'm going to put fiber optic lights in it because I'm crazy and I can and I'm that good. And yeah, they've made like exact replicas of that where it has all the light. Because remember that had a weird lighting scheme, especially when it would land.
Yeah.
Because remember when it would disconnect from the main ship and it went down to the
Is this
planet?
like everything, or is this like the crew thing, or like also the trailer or whatever, that weird pillar like
People
thing?
Have made the big fortress foundry that it was towing.
Yeah.
People have made that, but most people make the crew thing
Okay.
module that lands on the LV planet. And yeah, but remember that had a weird lighting scheme because it had like strip lights all down the side of it when they would land.
Yeah.
Guys could walk out. That's really hard to duplicate in small scale because you're using a bunch of fiber optics, but you're having to block off a bunch of them so it looks like strip lighting. And there's guys that do it. I don't know how, because they're just gluing the fiber optic cable to the side of the ship and then they're painting over it in sections.
Okay.
Little strips. Yeah, because there's guys that'll build them that'll be like this size. It's like that'll be the Nostromo module, and they'll have all that lighting and shit. It's like, I don't know how you do that. They're also, some of those guys are like engineers for aerospace companies, and this is their hobby, so they understand how to do things like that just in small scale. That's because a lot of these guys you'll find out it's like I have a passion for modeling, and it's like, oh, and I design nuclear bombs also. Like, oh, it's no wonder your models are so good. Or I'm an architect, and I also like to build tank models. And then you got the weird Russian guys. I don't know what they do, but it's like, some of the best Machine and Krieger modelers in the world are Russians. And it's like, and then you put the paint on, and then you drip kerosene on it, and it makes it look like it's decaying. Guy's in a bedroom just like dripping kerosene on a model. It's like, this is awesome. It looks awesome when he's done. But
And
it's
smoking.
Like, vodka on the table with a few drips of kerosene getting in it. But yeah, it actually looks like decay. Oh, there was one guy that was like, one of these Russian guys made a diorama of a tank, and they were trying to like curve a section for like one of the side pieces, and he just dipped it in acetone and was like rubbing it with his fingers, and the plastic would start to melt, and he's like, here, this is good. And then he went and washed it off, and it looked like, whatever he was trying to create. But he's just doing that with bare hands, just like trying to force the plastic, and it was dissolving in his hands. Just put some rubber gloves on at least if you're gonna do it. But yeah. So there's all kinds of crazy. I'm actually running out of model stuff to watch on YouTube. I've kind of like sucked all the information I can out of it. Unless I want to get into like Civil War diorama stuff. Like, there's a lot of that always seems dark.
Or you start building your Warhammer 40K army.
I think it's cool and I like it, but I can get a lot more model stuff for.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I can build a $10 Stuka or a $400, miniature tabletop robot, and it's like, yeah, it's about the same amount of work. Got an awesome result, but yeah, but that was fun. I use sometimes I use some of the Warhammer paints I appreciate. They have some interesting colors that really look good. They're a little brighter and they pop, so when you dull them out, they still look unique.
Huh.
There's a Games Workshop red I use exclusively for taillights on any vehicle, because it's like a really, really bright cherry red.
Yeah.
You paint it on and you hit it with a hairdryer, like if there's a grid pattern, because usually you get the lights, sometimes they're clear, sometimes they're red, but usually they're clear, and they'll have that grid pattern in them like the lights would if they were molded in the plastic from the factory,
Yeah.
especially on older vehicles or military stuff. And yeah, you put that paint on there and then you hit it with a hairdryer real quick and it'll actually kind of suck over that grid, and then you can just dull it up with some kind of finisher, and it's like, oh, it kind of almost looks like the headlights are the tail lights are illuminated slightly, like it has a good effect. I don't know why, just someone recommended it on something and I tried it. I was like, oh, that's cool. Because then Vallejo makes a whole line now of, because you have Model Air, you have Model Paint, and now they have something called Game Air and Game Paint, which is essentially exact reproductions of the Games Workshop colors for half the money. So yeah, I've got like 2 tiny bottles of Games Workshop stuff and about 15 bottles of Vallejo Games Workshop type stuff, because it's like half the price. Yeah, so that's Model Talk. And quiet.
I was like, are we going to go to movie talk, or should I talk about the Umbrella Academy?
Let's talk about the Umbrella Academy.
It's Netflix's new superhero show, being that they canceled all the other ones.
Okay, I was going to say, I thought they had a lot of them, but I guess not.
All the Marvel, now officially all the Marvel series have been canceled.
Why is they?
Because Disney's making their own streaming
Oh.
service, so
Oh.
they're probably going to take them over there. Well, not take them over there. It's like, hey, all that cast and crew, let's come on over. It's like, we'll start them up again over here.
Yeah. Everyone's just waiting for their new contract.
Because so they officially canceled Punisher and Jessica Jones. So Punisher recently had its season 2 come out. And Jessica Jones is not getting to season 3, which is a shame because that was the best of all the shows.
Oh, okay.
But oh well. So yeah, Umbrella Academy, based on a comic that I do not know.
Yeah, most of them are.
It's basically, the premise starts out is that one day there's suddenly like 48 births all at the same time from women who were never pregnant to begin with.
Okay, that sounds unique.
And then this rich guy goes around and basically like pays the people money to get these kids.
So you can buy your kids.
Pretty much. And then it turns out, some of these kids have superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tries to make like, this crime fighting family out of these kids.
So like X-Men, do they have different superpowers?
Yeah, they have different. So there's what is it? There's one girl. Essentially, she can make a rumor, and then it will control people's minds.
Oh, okay. So she's an internet conspiracy.
Well, it's like she like went up to a bank robber, and she goes, "I heard a rumor that you're gonna shoot yourself or shoot your friends in the foot," and then and then he goes and shoots the guy in the foot.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like mind control.
It's
mind control.
Yeah, but like it has a weirdly specific avenue of approach. It has to be a rumor.
Yeah, it's like gotta have a trigger that's unique.
Yeah. And then one guy's just powerful. He just has super strength.
Strong. Okay.
But what happens later on is he goes on a mission, and this is after like all the kids like started to leave. Like one of them dies and one of them disappears, and then the other ones just leave the group, and so he stays behind. So he takes this mission, and he almost dies, and then his dad has to inject him with like ape DNA or whatever to keep him alive. So now he's like gigantic, and like if he has his like big coat off, he's just like full of hair and looks like an ape.
Oh, okay.
So he was like a normal dude who was just strong, and now he just looks like a giant.
So now, yeah, it looks like Juggernaut or something.
Yeah. And there's one kid that can just throw a knife. Well, I really should say kid, but
Like Desperado style, like you don't want to fight the guy.
Well, he can like make the knife like turn corners or shit or something.
Knife curve, yeah.
But it's like only with knives. It's like I can control objects if they're pointy.
Specific superpower.
But like the majority of the series takes place when they're adults. When they're like 27 or something like that. But it'll jump back in time to like when they're kids and show stuff like that. And then there's the Asian kid. He died somewhere, and he has an ability to basically like project like Cthulhu tentacles and like just rip people apart.
Of course he can.
And then there's one kid that can like jump through space and time. Well, first it's just he just jumps through space, and then he's like, I think I can go through time, and that's when everything gets fucked up.
Oh yeah, whenever you start the time travel, that's when Doctor Who's got to come stop it all.
So he accidentally jumps forward in time, and like he finds out, oh, the apocalypse happened, and then he's stuck there for like 40 years.
Oh.
And then some weird like time cop agency like gives him a job to like go throughout the timeline and try to like keep the events flowing. So it's weird because like this time cop company, it's like they live in the 50s kind of, like they just hang out there, but they want to ensure the apocalypse always happens.
Oh, okay.
So they're kind of like weirdly timeless.
Yeah, as long as they get to live in the 50s.
And so they're trying to stop the apocalypse. That's pretty much the show. It's a very weird style, because when it starts out, it's like, oh, this kind of seems like this takes place in the 60s, but it doesn't. It takes place in current day times. It just sort of looks like the 60s, but they use music from the 70s and 80s. You don't really see cell phones, but there's other like high-end technology and like computers and laptops and shit. So they're just like,
this is a skewered timeline somehow.
That, or that's just the style they went with.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's a weird mix. I mean, it's an interesting style. It's just like how it all just clashes together, and like you constantly forget, like, oh, because there's one time where a guy gets sent back to Vietnam, and it's like 70s Vietnam, but it looks like the 70s. But then when he comes back forward, it kind of like their house kind of looks like the 60s, but like normal everyday place kind of looks like now, but then it'll suddenly be the 50s too, so it's just like all over. It's not like it's like it's a style choice. It's not like it's like universe merged and fucked up. It's just kind of like a style choice for each scene, and I'm not sure if they take that from the comic or not, but
it sounds like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. There's points where it gets pretty lame, and like, it's like, why would any actual person like do this? Like, who's swayed by this bullshit? But like, I guess you need to have a world-ending prophecy. So,
what is the mechanism of the apocalypse?
There's like several ones, but essentially someone blows up the moon, and like the piece of the moon falls on the earth and basically just evaporates everything.
70s style, okay.
Yeah.
Huh. I might have to check that out.
It's got, and Ellen Page is like, I think, the only notable actor in it.
Oh, well, that's a unique choice.
Did you ever watch Mindhunters?
Yes.
You know the guy who plays who's the serial killer? The guy he like talks to constantly, and he and scares him at the end.
Yeah. What the fuck's his name?
Was that Ted Bundy or not? I can't remember. No, it wasn't Ted Bundy. Who was it? Is that Jeffrey Dahmer? No. Damn it, I can't remember who that was.
Yeah.
Anyways, he plays one of the like time cops, and he's pretty good in it. And his name's Hazel, and his partner's Cha Cha, played by Mary J. Blige, which I didn't recognize her at all. It's like, because she sounded a lot like Wanda Sykes. I'm like, is this like Wanda Sykes' sister or something? And now she's doing it's like, oh, it's Mary J. Blige.
Debbie Sykes.
It's like, that's weird. She put in her character's name is Cha Cha, and they just kind of look like Men in Black, and then they put like weird, like animal faces on over their head when they go like around killing people.
Oh, okay, that's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. But yeah, because they use time travel a bunch, it kind of was like they just kind of like throw a bunch of things out and start over again. So that's kind of lame, but that could be what they did in the comic book. But
yeah, the old restart button.
Yeah. We don't know what we're doing. Pull.
The old Deadpool 2. It's like, yeah, this whole movie we did, yeah, we're just gonna undo it. But it's gonna be funny.
But yeah, it's Deadpool, so that's sort of the joke.
Yeah, well, it's disappointing. My favorite line in the movie was in the app when he meets her in the afterlife. Like, it's not time yet. He's like, "Don't fuck Elvis." Like, it's like that. Yeah, that could. Yeah.
So yeah, well, at least I watched all of it. So
Okay.
there's been a bunch of Netflix series tried to start and I just haven't finished. I didn't finish Pine Gap even though, and there's one on Hulu I heard good things about and I started watching it and I'm like, I don't know. It's called Pin 15, so it's just basically penis.
Okay.
It stars. It's somebody compared it to Napoleon Dynamite. It's a very specific weird humor. It takes place in a very specific time. It's like they're in middle school in 2000s, like exactly in 2000.
Okay, yeah, that's a very unique time in American history.
And it's like I guess it's kind of based on these two girls' lives, because they are nearly early 30s playing middle schoolers. So it's just fucking weird. I'm not really. I don't. The premise sounds funny, but I didn't really haven't necessarily enjoyed it yet. But maybe there's something because it's produced by the Lonely Island too. So I guess that's that kind of weirdness is in there.
Oh, okay. I read an interesting sci-fi book because now now there's like 15 books coming out in the next month that I want to get. So.
Oh, what's coming out?
Let's see. Tiamat's Wrath is going to be out.
Was that out in March?
Yeah.
Okay. So this month?
Yes. Well, anyway, let me tell you about the book. It's basically called The Quantum Magician. It's by a guy named Derek Kunskin, and I think he's French. I think the book is French. It was originally French, but for some reason it was published in English first.
Okay.
And so anyway,
I guess that's where the money is.
Yeah. Well, for sci-fi, yeah. I guess this it's kind of like Ocean's 11, but in a sci-fi universe. And there's some things I don't understand because the guy who wrote this book obviously knows a lot about quantum physics.
Yeah.
And but there was I guess a long time ago in the history of this universe there were specialized humans that were made through genetic mutation. There were people called the puppets, or they're called Homo pupus. What they are is they're like little tiny elfin humans that worship their creators as gods. Like when they see the people that created them, the people emitted a complex batch of hormones and other things, and these little creatures the puppets would worship them as gods. And but eventually the puppets, because they're just as intelligent as people, they still revered them as gods, but they turned against them. And they're just awful little people. And but yeah, basically if they find these, I forget what they're called, they had a name for them. But yeah, if they find there's naturally occurring humans that will create this awe and religious awe in the puppets, but they'll find them, and there's like a whole philosophy behind the puppets about It's like we have the cage and the whip, and because they worship these people, like they're overwhelmed with ecstasy as if they see a god, but they're also people. So they torture and hurt them, and then they want the people to hurt them as in their religious ecstasy, so they can because it's the only happiness they know. It's like really weird shit like that, but it fits in well with the story. And then you have a guy, he's what they call Homo Quantus, which is basically he was a human computer.
Huh.
Because what he has because these are all like, they're not robots, they're like genetically engineered. But what he can do is access certain parts of his mind with he was like, because it was like basically a human being with parts of an electric eel grafted into their DNA. So essentially turn off their personality, their emotions, and everything, and just think about math. And this guy was kind of a failed version of that, because he could because they went into something called the fugue, where they just become computational engines. And what happens is your body temperature rises very rapidly when you're in that state, and you have to wear like cooling suits and stuff. Well, he could maintain that state very long. But of course, they're all extremely intelligent, and being he didn't fit in and wasn't quite successful on the world he was created on, he just decided, well, I'm going to be a criminal, a con man, but I'm going to be a criminal and a con man who can understand, math in and out. So he can always. So it's a bunch of double crosses and triple crosses, and because there's a complex political, because everyone speaks French. And I know there's like a complex political arrangement. So this is like the French part of the universe, because there's like what they call an Anglo-Spanish part of the universe. There's a French part of the universe, and there's other parts they don't really talk about much. But then you have what they call these client states, which are like systems of planets or whatever that kind of serve the home states. And supposedly this in the story, this group, and I forget what they're called, because this is like Dune, there's all kinds of different factions and stuff, but they somehow discover, because the way you get around in this universe is you use wormholes, and of course an ancient race made a bunch of them that were connected that we just exploit, but then we can make them artificially and travel much shorter distances. And apparently the people in this client state, they found two micro wormhole gates that were facing each other. And they were small enough to like carry in a ship. They just found them on some planet. What they found out is if you stood in the middle of those two wormhole gates and moved them together, you could travel through time. And so what they did was they traveled like 100 years into the future, and they stole a bunch of technology from that and brought it back. And so they have these ships and stuff that work on something called an inflaton drive, which basically, I don't understand exactly how it works, but essentially it was a way to shunt inertia.
Yeah.
So then you have ships that can move like in Star Trek, like boom, they can go from high speed to zero, like you don't have to flip around like in the Expanse and slow down as much as they sped up. But this guy is supposed to smuggle these ships through the puppet space, so they can get out into another part of space and then start selling these ships, and thus undermine the people that control them as a client state. They're just going to destroy their shipbuilding market and their military too, because they have ships that are way superior. So anyway, this guy, I mean, and there's other species too. There's like people called the what are they called? The mongrel. And they're like human beings, but they look like walruses, but they have hands, and they can operate in like planets of just dense liquid. Like they can operate basically at 1,400 atmospheres of pressure.
Yeah.
And if they get any lower than 300 atmospheres of pressure, they just disintegrate. So they have to move around in these weird, like pressurized vessels to keep them alive. But they're like the ultimate pilots, because they're used to thinking in all dimensions. They can pilot ships, and they're real nasty, horrible creatures, but they're really angry. So yeah, it was kind of a cool story, but it was complicated. It moved around a lot. It explained each of the cultures kind of at length, and yeah, like I said, because they try to fake the puppets out by making, because like I said, these people are the masters of genetic engineering. So they make these they try to make someone who will be like a fake god for the puppets, so he can infiltrate them and plant a virus in their computers and shut down there, because where they're trying to smuggle these ships through is in the puppet space.
Yeah.
Want to shut down their defensive grids, and this guy's dying of cancer, and he's like, if we give you this surgery and they think you're a god, they're just going to torture you to death, because that's what they always end up doing. Like, they'll worship you as a god and then kill you. And he's like, yeah, but give the money to my daughter so she can live. And so it was kind of a the guy's life ended kind of sadly, but it's a really interesting, involved story. It's not necessarily high action, and it's sort of convoluted how it ends, because essentially what this guy, the Belsarius, the Homo Quantus, wanted was he wanted to steal those wormhole gates, because that's like the key to quantum mechanics is the ability to move through time and space like that. You can understand everything, and he has a girlfriend too who's one of these Homo Quantus, because essentially they're really autistic people that are hard to understand. Even when they don't shut off their parts of their brain, they're really hard to relate to. But he got really good at relating to people because he wanted to learn how to relate to people to con them. But essentially it's all artificial, and when you get to the core of the character, he's just kind of like what we would consider a sad, sort of dead person. But I'm really glad that I have these gates now, because I can understand even more math stuff. And it's
where'd you hear about this?
One of the YouTube channels I watch about science fiction books coming out. I almost didn't pull the trigger on it, but the price was right, and it was a pretty long book, so it was like $6 for like a 500-page book, and it got good reviews. It's like, okay, I'll try it. But it might be something you might enjoy more listening to than reading.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it does get a little dense, and sometimes people's motives are convoluted. It's like, how did he achieve that? Like, so you got to go back a few pages. Oh yeah, he did this and that. And like I said, I'm not really clearly explaining the ideas because I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, if you like dense, complex sci-fi, check it out. The Quantum Magician. Very interesting story. And like I said, I believe the author is French or something, because he had something on his website when I was checking out. It's like, everyone, the French version's coming out. I had to do it in English first. But sometimes in the book, like, people would curse and stuff in French, and I know all the French curse words and kind of some of the parts of their language I sort of remember. It's like, oh, and they don't make it clear that they're talking French. It's like, is this just nonsense words? Oh no, that's French. But yeah, that was an interesting book. Kind of unexpected, considering I'm waiting for, like, there's 2 Alistair Reynolds books coming out. One's already out. And then, of course, the next in the Expanse series, and then there's some more Neil Asher books coming out. The Neil Asher stuff, the price point better change on that rapidly, because I'm not paying $25 for a Kindle ebook. Like, you guys better get your shit together. I'm going to tap out on Neil Asher. So we watched a movie.
Yes.
Watched about half a movie. 1999 film American Pie.
After last week, we did American Beauty. Just
Yes.
keep with the American theme.
Keep with the American theme.
And there's crossover, I believe. What's her name? Thora Burt. No, not Thora Burt. The other one.
Who played the daughter?
Yeah, no, the friend.
Oh.
She's in this movie, and then also John Cho, I guess, was in both movies, which I didn't know. I don't remember him in American Beauty. He's just a student there.
Yeah, he was like in the background.
Yeah, which he is here. He probably the most notable. He's the one who, like, says the MILF line.
Yes.
Which was most popularized by this. They didn't invent it, but it was popularized by American Pie.
Yeah.
And now an entire porn category.
Yes. There's all kinds of ILFs. Porn categories.
I think this is the first DVD I ever owned because my first DVD player was my computer,
Oh, okay.
which didn't have a good DVD like app.
Yeah.
Like the app was like it would like run out of sync, and I'd have to like pause it and hit play again for the audio and the video to sync correctly.
Oh, okay.
It was stupid, but early DVD. So this is also the first audio commentary I ever listened to, so this kind of got me into audio commentaries.
Oh, okay.
Which is a good audio commentary because it's just like funny and entertaining. Like they don't necessarily spend any time like defending their artistic choices. Like we made a dumb, cheap teen sex comedy, and here's all the dumb and cheap things we did.
Yeah, and this is how we did it.
Yeah. So like the original title for this was Teen Sex Comedy for Under $10 Million.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember this movie being. There's two things that I only got to watch like half of it for the show, so I'm a little probably not going to remember everything. But there's two things I remember. I mean, of course, the guy fucks the apple pie. Which
Yeah.
is funny. And then the chick at band camp talking about fluting herself.
Yeah.
Like that. I remember this being like kind of shocking in some ways. Like
Yeah.
vulgar comedy, but funny at the same time.
Well, I mean, this is purely in the guise of Porky's, like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're not trying to be.
because like there was like Porky's came out, and then there was just a slew of teen sex comedies,
Yeah.
and then they just like kind of like just disappeared at the end of the 80s and 90s, and then like Mallrats kind of like was like, hey, we can do this again, but then Mallrats kind of failed and became kind of a cult classic in a way. So it didn't really like. So this is where it officially came back. It's like, oh, we made a cheap teen sex comedy, and it makes hundreds of $millions at the box office.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It made something almost $400 million.
Jesus, yeah.
I mean, all the American themed movies, I think there were 4 of them. They all made like a bunch of money.
Yeah.
They all made at least $250 million. And I only got the first and second one.
Oh, yeah. The series.
Yes.
Yeah, there's 4 main series. So you got American Pie, American Pie 2, American Wedding, and American Reunion.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 main ones. And then there's 4 like straight to DVD like side stories that only involve Eugene Levy in like a guest appearance.
Oh, okay.
And then an entirely new cast.
Oh, that's weird. So they tried to create their own universe of this?
Yeah. Well, this is kind of like a lot of the movies in '99. They became big on DVD, and so I think those are a result of like DVD sales. It's like, well, fuck, we can make an even cheaper teen sex comedy and just sell DVDs. Like that was like the heyday of DVDs, the early 2000s.
Oh, that was one of those movies then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's like 4 of them. So there's American Pie Band Camp, American Pie Book of Love, American Pie The Naked Mile, and American Pie The Book of Love.
Oh, okay.
And those are all like non-canonical, or I guess side stories of the American Pie universe.
Okay.
Straight to DVD American Pies.
American Pie Expanded Universe.
Ape you.
Yeah, this launched a few careers, didn't it?
Oh yeah, this is I want to say it's a great cast, but when you look at like where people went, like not really. Like the less of a star you were in this movie, the more of a star you became later on.
Oh, okay.
Like Jason Biggs, like he's been in a bunch of stuff, but he's just the American Pie guy.
Yeah, this is his apex career. Well, and he likes to say really offensive things on Twitter, I've heard.
And Allison Hannigan, like she got big on she was on Buffy, and then later she was on How I Met Your Mother. So like, she's had a pretty good career.
Yeah.
And what was it? It's Klein, something Klein. Not Chris Klein. It's like Kevin. No, it's not Kevin. No, maybe it's Chris Klein. And like he was in a bunch of movies after this, because basically everybody just made a bunch of movies with this entire fucking cast, but most of them are terrible.
Yeah.
John Cho, like he ended up doing Star Trek and all that stuff. So, and he directed a movie last year, a horror movie last year, so he did pretty well for himself. And Natasha Lyonne, she done pretty well she's got a Netflix show, and she's on Orange Is the New Black, so she's done pretty well for herself. This wasn't really her I think she did Down and Out in Beverly Hills before this, so she was kind of known before this.
Oh, okay. Her, yeah.
But this was Sean William Scott's first movie. He's kind of the biggest person to come out of this.
Right. Yeah.
Of course now he replaced Murtaugh in the Lethal Weapon TV show.
Oh, did he? Okay.
It's in its third season, and I haven't even watched one episode of it. It's like
Sean William Scott was one of those guys where his acting career fell off pretty dramatically, right?
Kind of. I mean, it's like he was starring in movies. Like I think he was in The Rundown with The Rock, and that's a pretty good movie. And
yes, that is a good movie.
And then I think it was around the time that there was a movie called Bulletproof Monk. That was kind of like it was like they spent a lot of money on that movie, and then like after that he was like a third tier character in Cop Out. like he just kind of fell off the map.
Yeah. He was in the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh yeah. Probably got money for that.
I always remember him in Southland Tales.
Oh yeah.
He was the crazy cop, the Nazi cop.
And then like not most recently, I remember Goon. He was pretty good in Goon. And I think they did a sequel as well, which I haven't seen that one.
Last of the Enforcers.
Yeah. But he's probably the biggest kind of like, this is where he started and this is where he is to come out of this movie. There's probably other people I'm forgetting. But yeah, like fucking Tara Reid has been in like thousands of terrible movies.
Yeah, she's like a regular. Hey, are we making kind of a mediocre movie that we can just cash in on a hot trailer? Yeah, where's Tara Reid?
I mean, she's in all the Sharknado movies. Like, I'll give you some indication of her.
She's still living in a big house and having a great time, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say this movie aged that well, but it probably still works.
90s rom-com, just a really vulgar 90s rom-com to me.
Well, the only thing that kind of struck me is like, oh yeah, you couldn't do this now. There's the part where I can't remember. It's like, Shannon Elizabeth. She's also in this movie. Who like after this she was in Scary Movie, and that was a good career turn. And she's like in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and then that was kind of like the end of her career. Although I guess they were the old, like John Cho, Shannon Elizabeth, and Allison Hannigan were all like John Cho was 26 and they were both 24. So now they're all in their mid to late 40s.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. You look these people up. It's like, oh, they don't look the same anymore.
Well, John Cho, I mean, but that's
that's
because we're racist and we can't see differences in. What was that? Well, because Jason Biggs kind of looks the same, but
yeah,
he always has that stupid goofy look. And I guess he was also in Orange Is the New Black, but he was pretty much gone by the second season.
Oh, okay.
And not really a integral character. So, but what else? Oh yeah, so that scene where she needs help for some history thing, and so she comes over to his house, and he like sets up a webcam, and then films her as she's like getting undressed, and like they're just like broadcasting it across the internet, where it's like, okay, nowadays it's supposed to be considered sexual assault. But, you know, 99, I guess, you know, that'd be like sort of like, hey, this is where the technology's going. I mean, it was already there, but like, I mean, they even cut to like them looking at the computer and like the motion is like all blurry and shitty and like, you know, it's like, oh, at least they got that right. But then they just cut to the actual scene. It's like, no, we got to see her tits. So.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was still, it wasn't HD, that's for sure.
But also at this time, nobody would like, you know, they get to school the next day and they're laughing at Jim for like basically coming before even like she even touches him. Premature ejaculation.
Yes,
And
way
that-
premature.
And everybody's laughing at him, and like even back then, like there's no but like immediate consensus where like everybody's watching the same thing on the internet at the same time. Like that would never fucking happen.
Right.
I mean, because nowadays, because you can get your just fucking internet on the phone, that'll happen nowadays, but not then.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this spawned a bunch of different movies. There's like, hey, the teen sex comedy is back. Like
Yeah.
the first one after this was Road Trip.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Had like not Seth Green, had Tom Green in it.
Yes.
And I don't know, that one's stupid.
Yeah.
And then there was Euro Trip, which basically had nothing to do with Road Trip other than it had Trip in the title, which is probably the best teen sex comedy
Oh, okay.
of all time. Maybe. That movie is fucking weird and great. And Matt Damon's in it.
Isn't that the one where they're talking to the German guy and it's like he's got this little kid and, you know, when they're not looking, he's like goose stepping around the house.
Yeah.
Nazi mustache and, yeah, okay. I
Uh,
remember that. And then they have the weird Swedish, like, sex dungeon thing.
yep.
Yeah, okay, I do remember that movie.
I think it's a really underrated movie. The internet has done well for it, but it was a pretty underrated movie where it just kind of just disappeared at the time. Yeah, like that Matt Damon's in it as the band singer who sings the song called "Scotty Doesn't Know" because his girlfriend's cheating on him with Matt Damon from the band. And then as they go across Europe, there's like just different like remixes of "Scotty Doesn't Know." And then that song actually became a hit at some point, like it hit the
I'm sure.
even though the movie wasn't a hit. It's one of those weird things.
That stuff happens. So, yeah, in movie joke becomes bigger than the movie.
Yeah. There was like Sex Drive that came pretty later, way later, but yeah. And then most recently there's been Cockblockers, which is essentially just American Pie, but you know, gender swapped.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Cockblockers is pretty good, but what makes Cockblockers good? Because watching this again, it's like, you know, it's like, yeah, I don't like relate to it. Probably what I did, you know, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But Cockblockers is good because essentially the majority of that story is following the parents. So most of the, like, what you get is like the parents' perspective and them just going insane. And it's pretty funny that way. So.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's just American Pie.
It's fun. Yeah, it's kind of a genre relauncher.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of things that came after it. It more vulgar than I remembered.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Well, also they've had like several different versions where they added stuff back in where it's like it's more pie fucking.
Oh,
Because this is pretty cut down at the time it was released. Like they had to keep cutting it because they kept getting an NC-17 rating, so they had to keep cutting it down.
okay.
And then I think this is one of the first DVDs to have like an unrated version
Right.
where it's like, oh, because it's going straight to DVD, we don't need to get the MPAA, so we'll have unrated version. Then people buy it again to see more of Jason Biggs' ass as he fucks a pie.
Yeah. And one of the worst names for a human being in it too is Stifler, which I know is just a joke for the movie.
Yeah, I casually I never watched I watched American Pie 2, but I never watched Wedding or Reunion.
Okay.
And I hear that like, so like Stifler, he's just a piece of shit in this movie. He's essentially the antagonist, if they're
Yes.
and and terrible things happen to him too, the same way terrible things happen to Jason Biggs' character. So there's kind of a weird coalescence there. And so like throughout the series, like he probably has the most interesting, because his character actually has an arc throughout the series where he becomes kind of like a weird frenemy, and then eventually just a friend.
Oh, okay.
While everybody else pretty much just has the same character, are the same character after each movie is done. Oh, except the Jason Biggs and Allison Hannon, they get married and stuff like that. So that is an interesting kind of direction for them. That the love story there, but Sean William Scott has the most interesting character development for a movie series that doesn't really need that. So that's kind of interesting.
It's not really a story designed around a just strong emotional character.
It's like, let's just cut and paste these jokes and slightly update them and make $100 million.
It works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see this as the kind of the, I don't know, who's the guy doing all the comedies? Who's the guy who did This Is 40?
Oh shit!
Why can't I draw on a name blank?
Yeah, I did like 40-year-old version and
yeah,
on that one with Adam Sandler of Funny People.
Right, that was a weird one.
Yeah, yeah, weirdly dark.
Yeah, it was dark.
Judd Apatow.
Yeah, this seems like the progenitor of a lot of Judd Apatow kind of humor.
Yeah,
his is a little more character driven.
Yeah,
this is more driven by vulgarity and just top craziness. But it seems like a similar vein of comedy. This comedy's weird. It evolves, it changes, then it goes backwards. And
well, a lot of the Judd Apatow stuff, it probably has more of a personal feeling because a lot of it's improv.
Oh, okay.
Whereas this,
scripted comedy.
It's just a scripted comedy.
Yeah.
Which there's a lot of improv stuff can take away from a movie where it's like adds nothing to it except a bunch of nonsense. Well, that was kind of funny, but did nothing to the story. And sometimes it'll bring out the character because it seems real because they are just like going unscripted. So it's like they're not trying to like, oh, I have to hit this line just right. No, they're just fucking going off the top of their head. So it's more realistic, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna have a lot of improv, you got to be pretty good at. Got to have pretty good editing.
Yeah,
yeah, you got to like, okay, we're gonna chop 90% of that out and keep these 3 lines.
Oh yeah, it's like fucking Anchorman. Like 90% of that movie was improv, and like so much of it was improv, they made a secondary movie with just like the edited footage,
right?
Or with the cut footage.
Have you ever seen the long form outtakes from the Ballad of Ricky Bobby or whatever?
No.
Oh my God, this shit went well between him. Now, Sacha Baron Cohen wasn't in it a lot, but when he was, it was just like, oh, they're just like shooting a parallel movie here. So much shit. And the stuff they couldn't, either John C. Reilly or what's his name?
Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell would just bust up laughing, and they because they were trying to like outdo each other.
Yeah.
Like when they were doing like the infomercials in the middle, it's like, do you know that large packs of dogs have taken over most of our major cities? And the other guys start laughing. Then Will Ferrell would be doing an ad for like Chinese candy, and then he'd say shit in Chinese in the middle of it, and John C. Reilly would start busting up laughing. And I guess the hardest thing to film was that dinner scene when they were sitting around the table and it was just his awful family and kids. And they were saying the prayer, and it's like, I imagine Jesus is an avenging ninja that comes and kills all the bad guys. My Jesus is a little baby Jesus. And it was just like, there was like 50 versions of that because they're just making the shit up. Yeah, Ballad of Ricky Bobby. That's that one. Anyway, this is American Pie. I was gonna say 40.
This is American Life.
This week for This American Life, we're going to talk about something amazingly sad and make it poignant. But yeah, American Pie. It's a nostalgia trip.
It's on Showtime currently.
Yeah, it's currently on Showtime. Watch half of it. Because you have one TV in your house.
Or go watch Cock Blockers. It's a better, more updated version of the movie. Or go watch Porky's.
Yeah, better yet.
Which, yeah, that's the other thing I realized, the parallels between Porky's and that, which I forgot most of Porky's, but like the whole, webcam scene, that's essentially just them. That's the shower scene. You drill a hole in the shower to watch the girls shower. That's essentially like the updated version of that scene.
Yeah. You can't stick your dick through the webcam.
No.
Pop out. That was a funny scene in Porky's with all the old people. Should we put up a wanted poster? Wanted a tallywhacker, and the other guys couldn't stop laughing. Yeah, some of those comedies from the 80s and even the early 80s and 70s, like, yeah, you just couldn't do any of this shit anymore.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be seen as funny because people actually went out and did that shit and they ruined the joke. Well, I think that's it for me for this week.
Yep.
I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else?
Oh, I have plenty more, but we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, because we're tired.
WWE TV has actually been good, which is strange.
Has it? When did that launch?
Well, no, just I mean like Raw and SmackDown, like their shows that televise on television.
Oh, I thought they were doing their own
Yeah, they have a they have a streaming service.
streaming. Oh, okay. I thought that just launched.
No, that's been around for a while.
Oh,
Cause that's the only place you can watch NXT is on their network or on their streaming service.
Oh, okay.
So NXT is still good, but and usually the WWE pay-per-views are usually decent, but Raw and SmackDown are usually terrible.
Yeah.
But I guess they've recently fired some creative people and they rehired one of their guys that used to be there like back in the Attitude Era, and
Okay.
and he's been famous recently for doing a podcast where he kind of like talks about the good old days, and he's there to kind of like and he does a bunch of impressions. It's a guy named Bruce Pritchard.
I think I've heard him before.
And he's back running the creative department, and so a lot of people are attributing him as being like, hey, the reason why it's suddenly good again.
But yet they fired him in the past.
Yeah.
That ought to be odd. That's nice and awkward.
And there's like weird, they had a bunch of NXT call-ups where it's like NXT's either going to get weird, or I don't know if these people are like officially called up or not, but it seemed like Vince McMahon had fucked up so much stuff. He just went over to Triple H and is like, hey, I broke all my toys. Can I have some of your toys?
Here's some money.
Because he basically like the heart of NXT right now. He just took it out. But I don't know if they're a permanent call up or if it's just a temporary ratings boost thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had, so the only thing that you'd be interested in is that they had a storyline on Raw last week where so they had the 70th birthday celebration for Ric Flair.
Okay.
And so it's the end of the show, and like everybody's out, like gathered on the walkway, and then they're in the ring, and they have like a cake, and they're waiting for Ric Flair, and he's like, Ric Flair's not coming out. And then like they cut to the back, and you see Dave Bautista dragging a cameraman, and he goes up to like Ric Flair's door, opens it up, and then he closes it because it's supposed to be like he's beating up Ric Flair, but Ric Flair's too beat up to you actually beat him up anymore.
Yeah.
And so then he comes back out, and he's dragging Ric Flair on the ground, and he's all like red faced and stuff like that. And then he like yells into the camera like, do I have your attention now, Hunter? And it's like, so this setup where he's gonna have a fight at WrestleMania with Triple H.
Oh,
So
okay.
so he's coming back to do that for a little bit. But now, last time they pulled him in, they wanted him to be a good guy. So now they're making him a bad guy coming back by beating up a 7-year-old man.
Yes. Elder abuse. All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
And this is Conlon. Goodbye, America.